Hey everybody, I am on for the midweek message reveal and it is August 27th. Thank you for being here with me and let's talk a little bit about the energy this week. Okay, well, we are fully direct now with Mercury in Leo, which will be moving into Virgo end of the week. Before we get into any of that, which we don't really need to get into at this moment, we are experiencing today a void moon, which means similar to last week, I want to say we had one as well, where there was a feeling of disconnection and there was a feeling of out of time. And that's where things get kind of stretchy and weird. And a lot of things that you're wanting to get done just won't necessarily be easy to get done, right? With that energy as well, we have Venus in opposition to Pluto. And when we have a Venus-Pluto opposition, the things that are on stage are relationships, connections, and a feeling of abundance connected to Venusian energy, right? When we pair that in an opposition with Pluto, Pluto wants to break it down, transform it, and dissolve it into something else. So the energy is going to be very extreme in the sense of connections with others. You might feel a real tie or a connection in relationships, coming on really strong, or someone coming on really strong with you. People really intense in their energy, or little anger bursts coming up. Understand that there's a manipulation vibe that comes along with this. There's a feeling of being almost in a state of being played around with. And that's because not only is the energy coming back in a way that is somewhat inauthentic because of its intensity, that doesn't mean that it isn't also partially what you are experiencing with the energy too, which is some anxiety, some feelings around what it is that you could produce or do in order to make connections tighter. So communication is going to be difficult in a sense that it's not going to be as direct as we want it to be. And the desire to connect is still strong. With that being said, pay attention to what's really being discussed. Pay attention to how you're feeling. Know that this is going to shift and change. Pay attention to how others are feeling. Know that that's going to shift and change. And if you're feeling like you're in a situation that is not allowing you to fully express yourself, question that. Why is that? There's a reason why it's coming up now. So we have lots of karmic loops that are being dissolved through their breakthrough. So things are kind of coming up in order for you to say, is this what I want to work on or not? And this sure seems like something that's happened before. You also might find that people are starting to shift out of your world. And as they do that, they have to kind of take along with them some of the energy that you've built up around that connection, what keeps you tied. So there is going to be a feeling of a little bit of grief. Excuse me. Whoa. And that grief vibe, hold on, I'm going to pause this. What is happening? All right, I'm going to try this again. What? Okay. I had to stop that part of the video because I was audibly choked up. Grief is a thing. It's something that I know we're all experiencing in our own ways. I have a lot of grief in my life personally about things that I'm shifting away from, things I'm looking to bring in, things in ways that I would I'm keeping all of this in here. Why does this thing keep, what is going on? All right, let's try this again. Just gonna dust yourself off and try again. All right. So I'm just gonna jump right into these guys and stop talking about random shit. If you chose one, you chose you chose Frankenstein. Isn't he so cute and so fun? He's just so cute and tired, just like us. All right. Frankenstein friends. Connecting with your energy, Frankenstein peoples, what I'm seeing is a lot of stuff in your way, and that's physical items. These are things that are actually placed in front of places that you're wanting more energy to flow. So this is physical stuff. It's like old shoes, old clothes. A lot of you are really utilizing Virgo energy to kind of clean house. And as you clean house, you're starting to understand that energy is being kicked up and moved around because you've gone ahead and basically flipped the script a bit. When this happens, you're going to be kicking up memories, feelings, and there is a desire for that energy to be cleansed. So what you might be interested in doing is either utilizing sage, incense, Palo Santo, even using music, sound, humming, tuning forks, crystal bowls, things like that, to clear that energy in the home. That energy clearing is necessary for you to feel like you got all the funk out. Please do this with a window cracked, okay? Don't keep all your stagnant stuff in there. Let it have a place to symbolically release itself. Understand that a lot of the stuff you're holding on to isn't necessarily the things that you really need. And you've changed. You've changed from the person who needed those things. Conversely, the other half of you that chose Frankenstein as well, because it's kind of dividing, I see you kind of divided into two groups here. The other portion of you are looking to acquire things in order to help define yourself. And some of this has to do with actual clothing. I can see some of you are looking to, some people are looking to get tattoos. Some people are looking to get some modifications. So maybe you're going to get some new piercing jewelry. Maybe you're thinking about changing up your look. Some of you are looking for different types of ways to present yourself externally to others. And that is looking different than what you are used to expressing yourself as. There's nothing wrong with that. It just feels a little funky because you're not fully, you're kind of in between who you are and who you want to be. And there's that sort of growing pain energy there that kind of is a little pinchy. This is exacerbated by the feeling of the void moon that I was just speaking about earlier, because there is this sort of push-pull and almost a feeling of disconnect. And that disconnect can make you feel like you don't have your people with you, that there's no longer somebody who's looking out for you. And what I mean by people, I mean by your spiritual team. I mean by a feeling of connection to something that's greater to the outside world. At the same time, there's almost a desire to want to connect to bigger things, bigger people, bigger, like I want to say accounts, and it's not all social media, and it is because a lot of us are utilizing these pathways. It's also a feeling of being replaceable that's coming up for review. Now, this is coming up for the first half of you that are dealing with the stuff, and that the stuff is replaceable, but who it's connected to may not be. And understanding that the thing isn't necessarily the person or the feeling. Whereas others who are looking to bring in a different sort of identity almost, or putting on a different sort of, a more expressed, more authentic version of themselves to others, is experiencing something different in a sense of almost worrying about doing it incorrectly or not doing it the right way. There's no doing it wrong. There are feelings of not feeling so connected to it, though, that you want to feel 100% on. The energy right now is not going to give you 100%. And you're never going to get 100%. You're going to get this feels right or it doesn't. And it's not 100% yes or no. You can tell, though, when things are leaning more towards the hell yeah than the hell no. Okay? Allow yourself some time to figure these things out. All right. Moving on to 2. If you chose 2. I wish he was more bobbly on his own. Be more bobbly on your own. All right. Group 2. My little gay stormtroopers. All right. If you chose 2, connecting with your energy 2. Okay, interesting. I'm I'm seeing the beginning of the Ricola commercial with the big horn where Ricola and the guys. There is a sounding out that is happening here, and this is something that you are wanting. You're wanting more of a voice. You're wanting more of a stake in things. You're wanting more of a say. And you're finally at the point where actually you have that foothold and people are listening to you. This is a bit intimidating. It's also, a lot of you are having to advocate for yourselves as well in a different way, almost like you have to put things out on blast. And that energy is being exacerbated by Venus opposing Pluto because it's sort of push-pull again. Get clear about what it is you're wanting to represent. Get clear about what it is you're wanting to actually say. And the best way to know if it's going to be well received is by having a perspective shift. If you're not able to flip the script and see how it could come across to someone else, watch, because this energy isn't necessarily forgiving in that department, as I mentioned in the beginning. When you're wanting to progress and communicate in a way that is more authentically you and at the same time more efficient, which remember Virgo energy is wanting that to be done in the best way possible, the most efficient way without a whole lot of bullshit. It can come across as kind of curt. It can come across as a little cold. It can come across a bit aggressive, but in a way that's more like micromanaging. And you need to watch the way that it's being presented out your mouth. Because the people who are receiving it, if you can flip the script and see things a little bit differently and how it's to be received, aren't able to open themselves up all the way to give you the same sort of consideration that you're able to give by having a flip of the perspective. A lot of us are being really challenged to listen before we speak, to get more information before we comment, to decide by taking the conversation to the end without actually having said it. This is interesting because last week there was a group, and I can't remember which one it was, that had to do with putting up boundaries around how you're communicating with others because there's a lot of energy leak happening there. This energy leaking vibe is kind of like a different shade of gray of that here. It's a gray scale of the same concept. A lot of this has to do with boundaries, but instead of boundaries with others, what you're dealing with too is boundaries more with yourself. How can you address things in a way that is more holistic, that takes into consideration the fact that everyone is dealing with their own version of some really fucked up stuff right now? And if they're not directly dealing with it, they are surrounded by people and loved ones who are going through some things. And then we zoom out and get a little macro, and we see that in a global sort of sense, or even a wider scope. And there's a need for compassion, and this compassion is not just for yourself, but it's also for others. You have a silver tongue in a lot of ways here too. You need to be aware though of how you're coming across, because you're accidentally kind of making people feel not as heard as you're intending. And that's the number one thing that people need right now, is space to feel heard and seen. Does that mean that you're the one to give it and that's your responsibility? Hell no, that's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that when people come and ask for your opinions on things, present it with some kid gloves. Because it took that other person a lot of courage to ask your opinion in the first place. And while you may be viewed as an authority, or you may be viewed as somebody who can judiciously hold space for other people, check with yourself and see if that's true. Because the reaction is almost that you're coming across a little snippier than you mean to. And it's only because the energy is kind of got us all in a simmer. Okay? I hope that makes some sense. All right. Thank you for being here with me in this wackadoo video that I had to do today. Had to do. That's not what I meant to say. That I have the privilege of doing today. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of feelings about what's going on. And there isn't necessarily a guidebook on how you're supposed to do this stuff. Let that apply to every aspect and every person in your world, even the people, especially the people that you don't know. Those are the messages this week. I would love to hear your feedback. I would also love to work with you. Please reach out, have a conversation with me, talk to me about some of the stuff that you're interested in. My goal is to be of service. And I know I'm doing this stuff for free, but that doesn't mean that I don't care genuinely about what's going on here in the world, because I really, really do. And that includes you. Okay? Thank you for being here. Would love to hear from you. Be good to each other, please. Sending you lots of love. Peace.